Dr. Cathara pressed her forehands against the observation deck window and watched the transport ship dock with Nexus 7 station. Her crystalline skin reflected the blue lights of the docking bay as she waited for something she had never seen before. A human was coming to live on their research station. The Galactic Council had approved this exchange program only 3 months ago. Humans were new to space travel. Most species in the galaxy thought they were just another primitive race that would take centuries to catch up with advanced civilizations. But somehow, humans had impressed the Council enough to earn a spot in the most important research station in this sector. Cathara had studied the files about humans for weeks. They came from a planet called Earth in a small solar system on the edge of the galaxy. The reports said they were bipedal mammals with basic technology and simple social structures. Their planet was mostly water with different climate zones. Nothing seemed special about them. The docking tube connected to the station with a soft hiss. Cathara straightened her lab coat and walked toward the airlock. As the head of xenobiology on Nexus 7, she had been chosen to be the cultural liaison for the first human exchange student. It was an important job, but she expected it to be easy. How complicated could a primitive species be? The airlock door opened with a mechanical whir. Cathara had prepared herself to meet a confused and frightened alien who would need careful guidance to survive in their advanced environment. Instead, a young female human stepped through the door and immediately smiled at everyone in the reception area. The smile was the first shock. Among most galactic species, showing teeth was a threat display. The Volante, like Cathara, only revealed their crystalline dental structures when preparing to fight. The Makari people never showed their sharp fangs except during mating rituals. But this human was showing her white teeth to complete strangers, as if it was the most natural thing in the universe. "Hello everyone," the human said in perfect galactic standard. Her voice was warm and friendly. "My name is Minji. I am so excited to be here." Cathara blinked her large black eyes in surprise. The human's pronunciation was nearly flawless, with only a slight accent that actually made her words sound more pleasant. Most new species struggled with galactic standard for years, but the real shock came when Minji made direct eye contact with each person in the room. She looked straight at Cathara's eyes and smiled even wider. "You must be Dr. Cathara. Thank you so much for agreeing to help me during my stay." Direct eye contact was considered extremely rude among most species. The Volante only looked directly at someone when issuing a challenge. The thermal grays interpreted it as an invasion of privacy. Even the peaceful aquatic choir found sustained eye contact uncomfortable. Yet Mingi seemed completely unaware that she was breaking major social protocols. She maintained eye contact while speaking, as if she was genuinely interested in connecting with each individual. Her eyes were brown and expressive, showing emotions that played across her face like moving water. "Welcome to Nexus 7, Cathara managed to say. She had planned a formal speech about station rules and cultural expectations. But Minji's unexpected behavior had disrupted her prepared remarks. "This place is amazing," Minji said, looking around the docking bay with obvious wonder. "The artificial gravity feels so natural, and the air smells like spring rain on my home planet. How do you manage to make a space station feel so alive?" Cathara realized that the human was asking a genuine question about their atmospheric processing systems. Most new arrivals were too overwhelmed or frightened to notice such details. But Minji seemed to be observing everything with scientific curiosity. "Our environmental systems use bioneural processors," Cathara explained. "They adapt the air composition to promote comfort across multiple species." "Bioneural processors," Mingi repeated, her eyes lighting up with interest. "That must require incredibly sophisticated programming to balance the needs of so many different respiratory systems. Do you use quantum computing matrices for the calculations?" Now Cathara was truly surprised. The human not only understood the concept but was asking about advanced technical details that most graduate students would struggle with. According to her files, humans had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. How did this one know about quantum computing matrices? "Yes, we do use quantum matrices," Cathara admitted. "How did you learn about our computational systems?" Mingi laughed, a sound that was somehow both musical and infectious. Several other station personnel had gathered to watch the unusual arrival, and some of them seemed to relax when they heard her laughter. "I studied everything I could find about galactic technology before coming here," Mingi explained. "My species might be new to space travel, but we are very good at learning quickly. Plus, I have always been fascinated by how different civilizations solve complex problems." She reached into a small bag she was carrying and pulled out several wrapped packages. "I brought gifts from Earth, traditional foods from my culture. Would anyone like to try them?" The offer of food to strangers was another social violation. Among most species, sharing food was reserved for family members or very close friends. Offering food to people you had just met could be interpreted as anything from an insult to a mating proposal. But Minji seemed completely sincere in her offer. She held out the packages with the same genuine smile she had been showing since her arrival. Her body language suggested she truly wanted to share something important from her homeworld. That is very kind, Kethra said carefully, but we should probably complete your orientation first. Of course, Mingi agreed, cheerfully. I brought enough for later. Food always tastes better when shared with new friends. Friends, she had called them friends, even though they had known each other for less than 10 minutes. Most species required months or even years to develop friendship bonds. The crystalline hierarchy needed formal ceremonies to establish social connections. But this human seemed to assume that friendship was the natural state between intelligent beings. As they walked through the station corridors toward the residential sector, Mingi continued to surprise everyone they met. She greeted maintenance workers with the same warmth she showed senior researchers. She asked intelligent questions about everything from the hydroponics bay to the quantum communication array. She showed genuine interest in learning about different species and their cultures. Your species files did not mention this level of social adaptability, Kethra commented as they entered the residential area. Social adaptability, Mingi repeated thoughtfully. I suppose that is one way to describe it. On Earth, we learned that cooperation and communication are essential for survival. Our planet has many different environments and challenges. We had to work together to thrive. They stopped at Mingi's assigned quarters, a standard research station apartment with basic furniture and a small food preparation area. Mingi looked around the space with obvious appreciation. This is perfect, she said, much larger than my dormitory room back on Earth, and the view of space through that window is incredible. She moved to the window and pressed her hand against the transparent aluminum surface. For a moment, her expression became thoughtful and almost vulnerable. I have never been this far from home before, she admitted quietly, but I am not afraid. I am excited to learn from all of you and maybe share some things about humanity that might be useful. Kethra studied the human carefully. There was something about Mingi that did not match any of her expectations or the species reports. This was not a primitive being struggling to understand advanced civilization. This was an intelligent, curious, and remarkably adaptable individual who seemed genuinely excited about the opportunity to learn and contribute. Kethra prepared to leave Mingi to settle into her new quarters. She realized that her assumptions about humans might be completely wrong. Living with a human was already proving to be much more interesting and complicated than anyone had expected. The real question was what other surprises humanity might reveal in the days ahead. Dr. Kethra arrived at the station cafeteria early the next morning to find Mingi already there, sitting alone at a corner table. The human was consuming what appeared to be a steaming hot liquid from a ceramic container. Steam rose from the dark brown substance, and the smell was unlike anything Kethra had ever encountered. Good morning, Dr. Kethra, Mingi called out cheerfully, waving her free hand in greeting. Would you like to join me for breakfast? Kethra approached cautiously. The smell from Mingi's cup was strong and slightly bitter, but not entirely unpleasant. It reminded her of roasted seeds, but with complex undertones that her sensitive Volante nose could not identify. What are you consuming? Kethra asked, settling her crystalline form into the chair across from Mingi. Coffee, Mingi replied, taking another sip of the hot liquid. It is a beverage made from ground beans that grow on my home planet. It helps me wake up in the morning. Kethra watched in fascination as Mingi drank the obviously hot liquid without any sign of discomfort. The temperature readings on her scanner indicated the liquid was nearly at boiling point. Such heat would damage the throat tissues of most known species. Does it not burn your mouth? Kethra asked. Mingi laughed, that same musical sound that had surprised everyone the day before. A little bit, but that is part of what makes it good. The heat and the bitter taste work together to create the perfect morning drink. The concept confused Kethra completely. Why would any species evolve to enjoy sensations that caused minor damage to their bodies? Among the Volante, anything that caused pain was avoided as a survival mechanism. You enjoy the pain? Kethra asked carefully. Not exactly pain, Mingi explained, more like intensity. The heat wakes up my senses, and the bitter taste helps me focus. On Earth, we have many foods and drinks that create strong sensations. We call them acquired tastes. Before Kethra could ask more questions, Mingi opened the small bag she had brought from her quarters. She pulled out several wrapped packages and began arranging them on the table. I thought you might want to try some traditional foods from my culture, Mingi said. I brought enough to share with anyone who is interested. She unwrapped the first package, revealing what appeared to be thin sheets of dried vegetation wrapped around small portions of white and orange substances. The smell was mild but complex, with hints of ocean salt and something fermented. This is called kimbap, Mingi explained. It is rice and vegetables wrapped in dried seaweed. Very nutritious and easy to eat. Kethra examined the food items. With scientific curiosity, the combination of ingredients seemed unusual but not threatening. She had eaten stranger things during her xenobiology research. Mingi unwrapped a second package, and immediately the air filled with a sharp, spicy aroma. That made Kethra's eyes water. Several other aliens in the cafeteria turned to look in their direction, their expressions showing alarm. And this is kimchi Minji continued happily, apparently unaware of the strong smell. Fermented vegetables with spices. It is very good for digestion and immune system health. The smell was getting stronger. Kethra noticed that other species in the cafeteria were beginning to move away from their table. A group of thermal greys near the food dispensers were covering their breathing apparatus with their hands. Mingi Kethra said gently, "That food has a very strong scent. It might be disturbing to other species." Minji looked around the cafeteria and seemed to notice for the first time that several aliens were staring at their table with expressions of concern. Her face showed immediate understanding and embarrassment. "Oh no," she said quietly, "I am so sorry. I did not realize the smell would be so strong to other species. On Earth, kimchi is a common food. Most humans enjoy the smell." She quickly began wrapping the kimchi back up, but the damage was already done. The pungent aroma had spread throughout the cafeteria. 3 different species had completely evacuated their tables and moved to the far side of the room. Dr. Vex, the station's head nutritionist, approached their table with obvious concern. His blue-green skin had taken on a slightly gray tinge, which Kethra recognized as a sign of nausea in his species. "Is there a chemical leak?" Dr. Vexler asked, his voice tight with worry. "My sensors are detecting organic compounds that suggest possible contamination." "No contamination," Kethra assured him quickly. Mingi was sharing traditional food from her home planet. "The strong smell is natural." Dr. Vexler looked at the wrapped packages with scientific interest that overcame his physical discomfort. "This is human food. May I examine it?" Minji nodded eagerly. "Of course, I brought several different types. Each one represents different flavors and nutrients that humans enjoy." She unwrapped the 3rd package, revealing small white dumplings. In a dark sauce, the smell was completely different from the kimchi, with rich, savory notes that actually made Kethra's mouth water. "These are mandu," Mingi explained. "Dumplings filled with meat and vegetables, served with a soy-based sauce." Dr. Vexler activated his portable food analyzer and scanned each item carefully. His expression grew more and more amazed as he read the results. "Remarkable," he murmured. "The nutritional profile is incredibly complex. Each item contains dozens of different organic compounds, vitamins, and minerals. The fermented item contains beneficial bacteria that would enhance digestive function in most species." "Really?" Minji asked, her eyes lighting up with interest. "I knew kimchi was healthy, but I did not know it would work for other species too. The biochemistry is fascinating." Dr. Vexler continued. "Your species appears to have evolved to process an enormous range of organic materials. Most species can only safely consume a narrow range of nutrients. But according to these readings, humans can extract energy and nutrition from almost any carbon-based organic matter." Kethra was beginning to understand why Minji's eating habits seemed so strange. Most species in the galaxy had evolved on worlds with relatively stable food sources. They had developed efficient digestive systems for specific types of nutrients. But humans seem to have evolved the ability to eat almost anything. "On Earth, we call ourselves omnivores," Mingi explained. "We can eat plants, meat, fungi, and many other things. Our planet has many different environments, so humans learn to find food everywhere." Dr. Vexler was practically vibrating with scientific excitement. "Would you be willing to participate in a nutritional study?" he asked. "This level of dietary adaptability could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies nutrition." "I would be happy to help," Minji agreed. "But first, would anyone like to try the food? I promise the kimchi smell gets better once you taste it." Several curious researchers had gathered around their table, drawn by Dr. Vexler's obvious enthusiasm. A young aquatic choir member named Finth stepped forward nervously. "I will try the wrapped item," Finth said in her melodic voice, "the one without the strong smell." Mingi carefully prepared a piece of kimbap and offered it to Finth the aquatic. Being examined it carefully before taking a small bite, her expression changed immediately from nervousness to surprise. "This is delicious," Finth said, her voice carrying the harmonic overtones that indicated pleasure in her species. "The flavors are perfectly balanced, sweet, salty, and something else I cannot identify. Umami," Minji said with a smile. "It is what humans call the 5th taste. It comes from the seaweed and fermented ingredients." Word spread quickly through the cafeteria. Within minutes, a small crowd had gathered around Minji's table. Species that had fled from the kimchi smell were now lining up to try the other foods. The mandu was particularly popular, with several aliens asking for seconds. Dr. Vexler was taking detailed notes and scans of everything. "The flavor combinations should not work," he muttered to himself. "The chemical compounds should clash with each other, but somehow, the human palate has found harmony in combinations that defy our understanding of taste science." Even more surprising was what happened when brave volunteers tried small amounts of the kimchi. Despite the overwhelming smell, the fermented vegetables actually tasted pleasant to most species. The spicy heat that had seemed so dangerous proved to be merely intense, not harmful. "This is impossible," Dr. Wexler declared after running tests on several volunteers. "The capsaicin compounds in this fermented food should trigger pain responses in most nervous systems. But somehow, the other flavor compounds are balancing the heat and creating a pleasant experience." Minji watched the crowd of aliens enjoying her food with obvious happiness. "On Earth, we have a saying," she told Kathera, "food brings people together. No matter how different we are, sharing a meal helps us understand each other." As Kathara watched the various species trying human food and discussing the flavors with each other, she began to understand what Mingi meant. The strange human eating habits were not just about nutrition, they were about exploration, adventure, and social connection. By the end of the meal, the cafeteria had returned to normal, but something had changed. The aliens who had tried Minji's food were talking with each other in ways they had not before. The shared experience of trying something new and unexpected had created connections between species that rarely interacted. "Your eating habits are indeed extremely strange," Kathera told Mingi as they cleaned up the empty food containers. "But perhaps strange is not always bad." Minji smiled, that same warm expression that had surprised everyone the day before. "Wait until you see what happens when I cook dinner tonight. I brought ingredients for Korean barbecue." Kathara was not sure the station was ready for whatever Korean barbecue might involve, but she found herself looking forward to finding out. Living with a human was definitely going to be more interesting than she had expected. Dr. Kathara found Mingi in the main laboratory at 3 in the morning. Station time. The human was sitting at a workstation, her fingers moving rapidly across a holographic keyboard as she worked on what appeared to be complex calculations. Her eyes were slightly red, and there were dark circles beneath them, but she seemed more focused and energetic than Kathera had ever seen her. "Mingi," Kathera called softly, not wanting to startle her. "What are you doing awake at this hour?" Mingi looked up from her work and smiled, though the expression seemed a bit strained. "Oh, hello, Dr. Kathara. I could not sleep, so I decided to work on the atmospheric processing problem that Dr. Wexler mentioned yesterday." Kathara moved closer to examine Minji's work. The holographic display showed incredibly complex mathematical equations and three-dimensional models that would challenge even the most advanced researchers on the station. "How long have you been awake?" Kathara asked, with growing concern. "About 36 hours, Minji replied casually, as if this was perfectly normal. "I had trouble adjusting to the station's sleep cycle, so I decided to use the extra time productively." 36 hours. Kathara felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. Most species on the station required rest periods every 12 to 16 hours. Going without sleep for more than 20 hours would cause serious cognitive impairment, and eventually death in most known life forms. "Mingi, you need to rest," Kathara said urgently. "Extended sleep deprivation can cause permanent damage to neural systems." But Minji did not seem impaired at all. In fact, her work on the atmospheric processing problem was brilliant. She had identified 3 potential solutions that the station's best engineers had missed completely. "I will sleep soon," Mingi promised, "but I am having such interesting ideas right now. Sometimes my brain works better when I am a little tired. It helps me think outside normal patterns." This statement confused Kathara completely. How could mental exhaustion improve cognitive function? Among the volante, even mild fatigue caused significant drops in reasoning ability and memory formation. Dr. Yenthera, the station's chief medical officer, arrived in the laboratory a few minutes later. She had been monitoring life signs throughout the station and had noticed Minji's unusual brain activity patterns. "The human's neural activity is extremely elevated," Dr. Yenthera reported, her 6 arms gesturing at the medical scanner she carried, "but her cognitive function appears to be enhanced rather than impaired." "Enhanced," Kathara repeated in disbelief. "Yes," Dr. Yenthara confirmed. "Her problem-solving speed has increased by 40% over the past 6 hours. Her creative thinking patterns are showing levels we have never recorded in any species." Minji continued working while the 2 doctors discussed her condition. She seemed completely absorbed in her calculations, occasionally making soft sounds of excitement when she discovered something new. "Look at this," Minji said suddenly, pointing to a complex diagram on her holographic display. "If we adjust the bioneural processor frequency by just 2% and add a buffer chamber here, we can increase efficiency by 15% while reducing power consumption." Dr. Yenthera examined the proposal with her medical scanner and portable analysis unit. "The mathematics are correct," she announced with amazement. "This modification would indeed improve system performance significantly." "How is this possible?" Kathara asked. "She should be barely conscious after so many hours without rest." "I think I can explain," Minji said, stretching her arms above her head. "On Earth, humans sometimes need to stay awake for long periods during emergencies or important projects. Our brains adapt by changing how they process information. We call it a second wind. She stood up and walked to the laboratory's large window, looking out at the stars. Also, I have been thinking about this problem in my dreams for the past few nights. Even when humans sleep, our brains continue working on difficult problems. You solve problems while unconscious? Dr. Yenthara asked, her tone suggesting she thought this was impossible. Not exactly, Minji explained. We dream. During dreams, our brains create scenarios and test different solutions. Sometimes we wake up with answers to problems we could not solve while awake. Kethera and Dr. Yenthara exchanged glances. Among most galactic species, sleep was a period of reduced brain activity used for physical repair and memory consolidation. The idea that a species could continue complex problem-solving while unconscious was unprecedented. Would you be willing to participate in a sleep study? Dr. Yenthara asked. We have equipment that can monitor brain activity during rest periods. Of course, Mingi agreed. But first, I want to finish this atmospheric processing proposal. I think I am close to a breakthrough. She returned to her workstation with renewed energy. For the next 4 hours, Kethera and Dr. Yenthara watched in fascination as Mingi worked through increasingly complex calculations. Her productivity remained high despite her obvious fatigue. Around 7 in the morning, station time, alarms began sounding throughout. Nexus 7, the main computer systems were experiencing cascading failures that threatened to shut down life support. Throughout the facility, Engineer Corinthal rushed into the laboratory, her scaled face showing panic. The primary processing cores are failing, she announced. We have maybe 6 hours before complete system shutdown. Mingi looked up from her work with immediate interest. What kind of failure? She asked. Quantum matrix instability, Engineer Corinthal replied. The computational load is exceeding safe parameters, but we cannot identify the source of the overload. May I help? Mingi offered. I have been working on processing efficiency problems all night. Engineer Corinthal looked skeptical. This requires expertise in quantum computing systems. It is extremely complex. I understand, Mingi said calmly, but sometimes a fresh perspective can identify problems that experts miss. With nothing to lose, Engineer Corinthal agreed to let Mingi examine the system diagnostics. Within minutes, Mingi had identified the root cause of the problem. Here, she said, pointing to a section of code on the diagnostic display. This subroutine is creating a feedback loop that multiplies computational load exponentially. Isolate this process and reroute it through the secondary matrix. The overload should stop. Engineer Corinthal implemented Mingi's suggestion immediately. The system alarms stopped and the quantum matrices stabilized at normal operating parameters. How did you identify that so quickly? Engineer Corinthal asked in amazement. ARP, best technicians have been working on this problem for weeks. Sometimes being tired helps, Mingi explained. When I am exhausted, I stop thinking about how things are supposed to work and start seeing how they actually work. The crisis had been resolved, but Mingi was not finished. Over the next 2 hours, she worked with the engineering team to implement several modifications that would prevent similar failures in the future. Her suggestions improved system stability by 30%. By the time the immediate crisis was over, Mingi had been awake for 42 hours. She was clearly exhausted, but her performance had actually improved under the extreme stress. She had coordinated repair efforts across multiple departments, solved complex technical problems, and maintained perfect focus throughout the emergency. This is impossible, Dr. Yenthara muttered as she reviewed the medical data. Her stress hormones should have caused system shutdown hours ago. Instead, they seem to be enhancing her cognitive abilities. On Earth, we evolved in a dangerous environment, Mingi explained as she finally prepared to rest. Sometimes survival required staying awake and alert for days at a time. Our bodies learned to function under extreme stress. She yawned, the first sign of fatigue she had shown all night. Emergency situations actually make humans more focused and creative. We call it rising to the occasion. As Mingi finally went to her quarters to sleep, Kethera reflected on what she had witnessed. The human's ability to function without rest, to solve problems while unconscious, and to perform better under stress challenged everything they knew about biological limitations. Her species file will need major revisions, Dr. Yenthara commented. Humans are not just adaptable. They are enhanced by the very conditions that would destroy most other species. Kethera nodded thoughtfully. Living with a human continues to be full of surprises, she said. I wonder what else we will discover about their capabilities. The next morning, Mingi woke up after only 6 hours of sleep, apparently completely refreshed and ready for new challenges. Her first question was whether the atmospheric processing modifications had been approved for implementation. It was becoming clear that humans did not just adapt to their environment, they thrived in conditions that would be impossible for other species to survive. Dr. Kethera discovered the true extent of Mingi's abilities during what started as a routine diplomatic meeting. The crystalline hierarchy had sent Ambassador Vrextel to discuss a research partnership with Nexus 7, but the meeting had quickly turned into a disaster. Ambassador Vrextel sat rigidly in the conference room, his geometric crystal structure reflecting the harsh overhead lights. Across from him, Fluid Collective, Representative Zulfara, rippled with agitation, her liquid form constantly shifting between different shapes. The hierarchy refuses to share quantum resonance data, Ambassador Vrextel declared, his voice carrying the sharp harmonics that indicated anger in his species. Your methods are chaotic and inefficient. Chaotic, Representative Zulfara responded, her form bubbling with indignation. Your rigid thinking patterns prevent true innovation. You crystallize ideas before they can reach their full potential. The two species had been trying to negotiate for 3 hours, but every attempt at communication only made the situation worse. Their fundamental differences in thinking and communication styles made it impossible for them to understand each other. Dr. Cathara watched helplessly as the meeting deteriorated further. The research partnership would have benefited everyone on the station, but cultural barriers seemed impossible to overcome. Minji had been quietly observing from the back of the room, taking notes on a portable datapad. She had been invited to attend as part of her cultural exchange program, but no one expected her to participate in high-level diplomatic negotiations. Excuse me, Mingi said softly, raising her hand. May I ask a question? Ambassador Vrextel's crystal structure flickered with annoyance. This is a matter for established diplomatic channels. Primitive species should not interrupt official proceedings. The insult to Mingi caused immediate tension in the room. Several station personnel shifted uncomfortably, waiting to see how the human would respond to such rudeness, but Minji's expression did not change. She maintained her calm smile and gentle tone. I understand your concern, Ambassador Vrextel. You want to protect your people's valuable research. That shows great wisdom and responsibility. The unexpected response seemed to surprise Ambassador Vrextel. His crystal structure stopped flickering as he processed Minji's words, and Representative Zulfara Minji continued, turning to the Fluid Collective delegate. Your desire to explore new possibilities shows remarkable courage. Innovation requires willingness to take risks. Representative Zulfara's agitated, rippling began to slow. You understand our position, she said with surprise. I think I do, Minji replied, but I also think there might be a misunderstanding happening here. She stood up and moved to the center of the room, positioning herself where both delegates could see her clearly. Ambassador Vrextel, when you say the Fluid Collective's methods are chaotic, what specific concerns do you have? Their research, LAX proper structure, Ambassador Vrextel explained. They pursue multiple hypotheses simultaneously without establishing clear parameters. This leads to inconsistent results and wasted resources. Mingi nodded thoughtfully. So your concern is about efficiency and reliability. You want to make sure that shared resources are used effectively. Precisely, Ambassador Vrextel confirmed, his tone becoming less hostile, and Representative Zulfara Mingi continued. When you say the hierarchy's thinking is too rigid, what opportunities do you think they might be missing? They focus on proving existing theories rather than discovering new ones. Representative Zulfara replied, their structured approach prevents them from seeing unexpected connections and possibilities. So, your concern is about innovation and discovery, Mingi summarized. You want to make sure that collaboration leads to breakthrough discoveries, not just incremental improvements. Exactly, Representative Zulfara agreed. Mingi looked between the two delegates with a gentle smile. It sounds like you both want the same thing. You want research collaboration that is both reliable and innovative. You want to use resources efficiently while still making important discoveries. The room fell silent as both delegates considered this perspective. Dr. Cathara watched in amazement as she saw understanding begin to dawn on their faces. The human is correct, Ambassador Vrextel said slowly. Our concerns are complementary rather than contradictory. Yes, Representative Zulfara agreed, her fluid form settling into a more stable configuration. We both want successful research outcomes. What if we designed a collaboration structure that addresses both concerns? Minji suggested. The hierarchy could provide systematic methodology and quality control, while the Fluid Collective could contribute creative hypothesis generation and experimental flexibility. Ambassador Vrextel's crystal structure began to emit a soft, pleasant light, which Dr. Cathara recognized as a sign of interest and approval in his species. This could work, he admitted. Our systematic approach combined with their innovative thinking might produce superior results to either method alone, and our creative exploration would be enhanced by their structured analysis. Representative Zulfara added, we could pursue bold new ideas while maintaining scientific rigor. Within the next hour, the two delegates had outlined a comprehensive research partnership that satisfied both of their species' requirements. The agreement included systematic protocols to ensure efficiency and reliability, combined with flexible exploration phases to encourage innovation and discovery. After the meeting ended successfully, Dr. Kathara approached Mingi with obvious curiosity. "How did you accomplish that?" she asked. "Those two species have been unable to communicate effectively for over 2 centuries. I just listened to what they were really saying," Mingi explained. Both sides had valid concerns, but they were expressing them in ways that sounded like attacks on each other's fundamental nature. "But how did you know what they were really feeling?" Dr. Kathara pressed. "Our emotional states should have been impossible for an alien species to interpret." Mingi considered the question carefully. "On Earth, humans had to live in groups to survive. We learned to read small signals that show what people are thinking and feeling, things like body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions." She gestured toward the now empty conference room. Ambassador Vextel's crystal structure was flickering in a pattern that suggested fear rather than anger. He was worried about his people's safety, not trying to insult anyone. And Representative Zolfaris' rapid shape changes looked like anxiety, not aggression. She was afraid her ideas would not be understood. Dr. Kathara realized that Minji had been reading emotional cues that the other species in the room had completely missed. You could see their emotional states even though they are completely different species. "Emotions are universal," Minji explained. "All intelligent species feel fear, hope, curiosity, and concern for their communities. The expressions might be different, but the underlying feelings are the same." Over the following days, word spread throughout the station about Mingi's diplomatic success. Other conflicts that had seemed impossible to resolve were brought to her attention. The thermal greys had been having territorial disputes with the aquatic choir over laboratory space. Minji helped them realize that both species actually needed very similar environmental conditions and could share facilities more efficiently than either could use them alone. A group of research assistants from different species had been struggling with communication problems that affected their collaborative projects. Minji organized social activities that helped them understand each other's working styles and build personal connections. Even minor conflicts between individual researchers were resolved more quickly when Mingi was involved. Her ability to understand what people really needed, rather than what they said they wanted, made her remarkably effective at finding solutions that satisfied everyone involved. "The human's emotional intelligence is unprecedented," Dr. Yenthra reported during a senior staff meeting. "She can read and respond to emotional states across species barriers that we thought were impossible to cross." "It is more than just reading emotions," observed Dr. Vexler. "She seems to understand the underlying needs and motivations that drive behavior. This allows her to address root causes rather than surface symptoms." Station Commander Cor, a massive insectoid whose species was known for logical thinking and emotional restraint, was particularly impressed by Minji's abilities. "The human has resolved more conflicts in 2 weeks than our professional mediators handle in a full year," he noted. "Her success rate is 100%. How is this possible?" Dr. Kathara wondered aloud. What evolutionary pressures could have created such sophisticated emotional intelligence? Minji, who had been invited to attend the staff meeting, offered her perspective. "On Earth, humans lived in complex social groups with many different personalities and needs. We had to cooperate to survive, but we also had to compete for resources and mates." She paused, gathering her thoughts. This created an environment where understanding other people's emotions and motivations was essential for success. Humans who could build alliances, resolve conflicts, and inspire cooperation were more likely to survive and have children. "So emotional intelligence became a survival trait," Commander Korthok concluded. "Yes," Minji agreed. "And it worked so well that we kept expanding our social groups. Eventually we learned to cooperate with people who were completely different from us, different cultures, different beliefs, different ways of thinking. And now you can extend that cooperation to different species," Dr. Kathara observed. Mingi smiled, that same warm expression that had surprised everyone when she first arrived. "I think all intelligent species want the same basic things: safety, understanding, the chance to contribute something meaningful. When you focus on those shared needs, differences become much easier to work with." As the meeting concluded, Dr. Kathara reflected on what she had learned about human emotional intelligence. It was not just an unusual trait. It was a powerful tool that could transform how different species interacted with each other. Living with a human was revealing abilities that could change the entire galaxy's approach to diplomacy and cooperation. The question was whether other species were ready to learn from humanity's example. Everything changed when Dojan arrived on Nexus 7. The second human exchange student stepped off the transport ship with the same friendly smile that had surprised everyone about Minji. But he carried something different in his eyes. Where Minji showed curiosity and warmth, Dojan showed the intense focus of someone who saw problems everywhere and could not resist trying to fix them. "Welcome to Nexus 7. Dr. Kathara greeted him at the docking bay. "I am Dr. Kathara, your cultural liaison." "Thank you," Dojan replied, shaking her hand with a firm grip. "I am very excited to be here." Minji has told me so much about this place in her messages to Earth. As they walked through the station corridors, Dojan's behavior was noticeably different from other new arrivals. Instead of showing the usual overwhelmed reaction to advanced alien technology, he examined everything with analytical interest. "This artificial gravity system is fascinating," he commented, stopping to study a control panel. "But the power distribution seems inefficient. Are you using rotating sections or gravitational field generators?" "Gravitational field generators," Dr. Kathara replied, surprised by the technical question. "Interesting," Doyen mused. "Have you considered using microfield arrays instead of single large generators? It would provide more even distribution with lower power requirements." Dr. Kathara realized that the second human was going to be just as surprising as the first, but in completely different ways. They found Minji in the main laboratory, working on a collaborative project with 3 different alien researchers. Her face lit up with joy when she saw Doyon, and they embraced in the warm manner that humans use to greet friends and family. "How was the journey?" Mingi asked in Korean, then immediately switched to Galactic Standard. "Sorry, Dr. Kathara. I was asking about his trip from Earth." "Long but educational," Doyon replied. "I spent most of the time studying the ship's systems. Human technology is so primitive compared to what I saw. We have so much to learn." Within hours of Dojon's arrival, the dynamic on Nexus 7 began to change in unexpected ways. Where Mingi had impressed everyone with her emotional intelligence and adaptability, Dojon showed a different kind of human capability that was equally remarkable. He could not look at any system without immediately seeing ways to improve it. The food synthesizers could be more efficient. The environmental controls could be more responsive. The communication systems could be more reliable. Every piece of technology on the station seemed to trigger his instinctive desire to make it better. "This is fascinating," he told Dr. Wexler while examining the atmospheric processing equipment. "But why are you using linear algorithms for the nutrient distribution? A recursive optimization system would adapt better to changing conditions." Dr. Wexler, who had designed the atmospheric systems himself, was initially defensive. "The linear system has worked reliably for 15 years, he said. "I am sure it works well," Doyon agreed politely. "But I think it could work even better. May I show you what I mean?" What followed was a detailed explanation of algorithmic improvements that would increase system efficiency by 23% while reducing maintenance requirements. Dr. Wexler found himself taking notes on his own equipment. The real transformation began when Minji and Dojon started working together. Their combined abilities created something that was greater than the sum of its parts. Minji's emotional intelligence helped her understand what people needed, while Doyon's technical intuition showed him how to build it. "The research teams are having trouble sharing data between different computer systems," Mingi observed after talking with frustrated scientists throughout the station. "That is a simple interface problem," Doyon replied. "Each species designed their systems differently, but the underlying data structures are similar. We just need a universal translation protocol." Within 3 days, they had designed and implemented a system that allowed seamless data sharing between technologies from 7 different civilizations. Research productivity on the station increased by 40% almost immediately, but they were just getting started. "The living quarters are designed for individual species," Mingi noted, "but many researchers would work better in mixed teams if they had collaborative spaces. The structural modifications would be minimal." Doyon agreed. "We could create adaptive environments that adjust to the needs of different species automatically." They proposed a renovation project that would create flexible common areas throughout the station. The spaces would automatically adjust lighting, temperature, atmosphere, and even gravity to accommodate whatever species were present. Station Commander Korthok was initially skeptical. Such modifications would require massive computational power and complex engineering. "Not if we use distributed processing," Doyon explained. "Each room would have simple sensors and basic adjustment capabilities. The complex calculations would be shared across the station's existing computer network, and the social dynamics would be managed through graduated introduction protocols." Mingi added, "We would help different species learn to work together comfortably before putting them in shared spaces." The renovation project was approved and completed in record time. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. Research teams that had never collaborated before began working together on projects that combined their different expertise and perspectives. The crystalline hierarchy's mathematical precision combined with the fluid collective's creative flexibility to solve problems that neither group could handle alone. The thermal graze energy manipulation techniques enhanced the aquatic choir's bioharmonic research in ways no one had imagined possible. The station's research output has increased by 400%. Dr. Yanthara reported in amazement. "We are making breakthrough discoveries every week, but the humans were not finished." Every success seemed to inspire them to tackle even bigger challenges. "The quantum communication array could handle much more data if we optimized the signal processing," Doyon observed. and the maintenance robots could be more efficient if they learned from each other's experiences. Minji added, the hydroponics bay could grow food for more species if we created microenvironments for different plant types. Dojin continued, the recreation facilities could help different species understand each other better if we designed activities that showcased their unique abilities. Minji suggested. Each idea led to improvements that made life on Nexus 7 better for everyone, but more importantly, each improvement inspired other species to contribute their own innovations. The humans' enthusiasm for making things better was contagious. Dr. Cathara found herself staying awake at night, thinking about ways to improve her own xenobiology research. Dr. Vexler began proposing modifications to systems throughout the station. Even Commander Korthok started suggesting efficiency improvements to standard procedures. What is happening to us? Dr. Yenthera wondered during a staff meeting. Everyone on the station has become obsessed with innovation and improvement. It is the humans, Commander Korthok observed. Their approach to problem solving is fundamentally different from most species. They do not just adapt to their environment, they actively seek to improve it. But why? Dr. Cathara asked. What evolutionary advantage does this provide? Minji and Doyen, who had been invited to attend the meeting, looked at each other and smiled. On Earth, the environment was constantly changing, Minji explained. Climate shifts, natural disasters, competition from other species. Humans who could quickly adapt and improve their tools and methods were more likely to survive. But we did not just adapt, Dojan added. We learned to change our environment to suit our needs. We built shelters, created tools, domesticated plants and animals. Eventually, we learned to modify entire ecosystems. So improvement and innovation became instinctive. Dr. Cathara concluded. Yes, Minji agreed. And it works best when we collaborate. No single human has all the answers, but when we work together and share ideas, we can solve almost any problem. This explains the productivity increase, Commander Korthak noted. The humans are not just contributing their own innovations, they are inspiring everyone else to innovate as well. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Cathara reflected on what she had observed. The humans' drive to improve everything around them was transforming not just the technology on Nexus 7, but the entire culture of the station. The species that had worked in isolation for centuries were now actively collaborating. Problems that had been accepted as unsolvable were being addressed with creative new approaches. The entire concept of what was possible had expanded. Living with humans is changing us all, she realized. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for the kind of transformation that humanity seemed to bring wherever they went. 6 months after Minji's arrival on Nexus 7, Dr. Cathara sat in her laboratory, preparing the most important report of her career. The data she had collected about human behavior and capabilities would determine humanity's place in galactic civilization. For generations to come, the changes on Nexus 7 had been remarkable. Research productivity had increased by over 500%. Conflicts between different species had dropped to nearly zero. Innovation and improvement had become a way of life rather than occasional events. But most importantly, the entire social dynamic of the station had transformed. Dr. Cathara Minji called from the laboratory entrance. May I speak with you? Of course, Cathara replied, looking up from her data analysis. What can I help you with? Minji entered the laboratory with an expression that seemed more serious than usual. I wanted to thank you for everything you have done for me during my time here, and I wanted to ask you something important. You are welcome, Cathara said warmly. But why do you sound like you are saying goodbye? Because I might be, Minji admitted. The Galactic Council is meeting next week to decide whether to continue the human exchange program. Some species are concerned about the changes we have caused. Cathara was not surprised by this news. The rapid transformation of Nexus 7 had attracted attention throughout the galaxy. Some species viewed the changes positively, but others were worried about the implications of human integration. What are you concerned about specifically? Cathara asked. I know that living with humans has been strange for everyone, Minji said. We eat foods that smell terrible to other species. We stay awake when we should be sleeping. We want to change and improve everything around us. Some people think we are too disruptive. And what do you think? Cathara asked gently. Minji was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. I think we are different, but not in bad ways. Humans want to help. We want to make things better for everyone, but maybe we do it in ways that make other species uncomfortable. The question is whether different is dangerous, Cathara observed. Exactly, Minji agreed. And I was hoping you could help me understand what your report will say about that. Cathara considered her response carefully. Over the past 6 months, she had observed human behavior more closely than any other researcher in the galaxy. Her conclusions would carry significant weight with the Galactic Council. My report will recommend that humanity be classified as a priority integration species, she said finally. Minji's eyes widened with surprise. Really, even though we are so strange? Because you are so strange, Cathara corrected with a smile. Your strangeness is exactly what makes you valuable. She activated her holographic display and showed Minji some of the data she had collected. Look at these productivity measurements. Research output, conflict resolution, innovation rates, interspecies cooperation. Every metric has improved dramatically since humans arrived on this station. But correlation is not causation, Minji pointed out, using a phrase she had learned from her scientific training. Maybe the improvements happen for other reasons. I considered that possibility, Kethera acknowledged, so I analyzed data from other research stations that do not have human participants. Their productivity and cooperation levels remained constant during the same time period. She showed Minji comparison charts that clearly demonstrated the unique impact of human presence. The changes only occurred where humans were involved. So you think humans are beneficial to galactic civilization? Minji asked hopefully. I think you are essential, Kethera replied, but my report also includes warnings about human capabilities that other species need to understand. What kind of warnings? Minji asked with concern. Humans form emotional bonds with other species and will take significant risks to protect those they consider friends, Kethera explained. This loyalty extends beyond your own species, which makes you potentially dangerous to anyone who threatens your adopted communities. Minji nodded thoughtfully. That is true. If someone tried to hurt you or the other researchers on this station, I would do everything I could to stop them. Even if it meant risking your own safety, Kethera asked. Yes, Minji replied without hesitation. You are my friends. Friends protect each other. That is exactly what I mean, Kethera said. This level of interspecies loyalty is unprecedented in galactic history. It could be seen as either a wonderful strength or a serious threat, depending on your perspective. As they talked, Dojan entered the laboratory with Station Commander Korthok and several other senior staff members. They had been meeting to discuss the upcoming council decision. We have received preliminary feedback from the council representatives, Commander Korthok announced. The response is mixed. Some species are enthusiastic about increased human integration. Others are requesting restrictions on human activities. What kind of restrictions? Minji asked. Limited numbers of humans per facility. Commander Korthok listed. Supervised activities only. Prohibition on modifying existing systems without approval from multiple species. Those restrictions would eliminate most of the benefits of human integration, Dojan observed. Innovation requires freedom to experiment and take risks. That is the concern, Dr. Yinthara added. Some species want the benefits of human capabilities without accepting the changes that come with them. But change is inevitable when different species interact, Minji pointed out. We have all changed during this exchange program, not just the non-human species. How have you changed? Dr. Kethera asked with genuine curiosity. I have learned to think in ways I never did on Earth, Minji explained. Working with the crystalline hierarchy taught me the value of systematic thinking. The Fluid Collective showed me how to embrace uncertainty and explore multiple possibilities simultaneously. Every species here has taught me something new about approaching problems, and I have learned that innovation works better when you consider multiple perspectives. From the beginning, Doyan added, on Earth, humans often design things for other humans and then try to adapt them later. Here, I have learned to create solutions that work for many different types of minds and bodies from the start. Commander Korthok's insectoid features shifted. In what Kethera recognized as his species' expression of thoughtful consideration, the humans have adapted their methods to work with our capabilities rather than imposing their own approaches. That is exactly the point, Dr. Kethera said, making notes for her final report. True integration requires change from all participants, not just adaptation by newcomers. Over the next few days, as the Galactic Council meeting approached, word spread throughout Nexus 7 that the human exchange program might be discontinued. The reaction from the station's personnel was immediate and overwhelming. Research teams that had achieved breakthrough discoveries through human collaboration petitioned the Council to continue the program. Engineers who had implemented improvements submitted detailed reports on productivity gains. Even the maintenance staff wrote testimonials about how human innovations had made their work easier and more efficient, but the most significant response came from an unexpected source: the crystalline hierarchy and the Fluid Collective. The two species whose centuries-long communication problems had been resolved through Mingi's diplomatic intervention jointly submitted a formal proposal to the Council. We request that humans be granted permanent cultural ambassador status, their joint statement read. Their unique abilities to bridge differences between species and inspire collaborative innovation make them invaluable to galactic civilization. Similar statements arrived from research stations throughout the galaxy where humans had participated in exchange programs. The pattern was consistent everywhere: initial surprise at human strangeness, followed by appreciation for human capabilities, and finally, recognition that human integration improved outcomes for everyone involved. The day before the council meeting, Dr. Kethera submitted her final report. In addition to her scientific analysis, she included personal observations about what she had learned from living with humans. The title of this report asks whether living with humans is extremely strange. She wrote in her conclusion, The answer is unquestionably yes. Human behavior defies most established models of intelligent species development. Their eating habits, sleep patterns, social bonding, and approach to problem solving are unlike anything we have observed in other species. However, this strangeness is not a weakness or a threat. It is a strength that complements the abilities of other galactic species. Humans do not replace what we do well. They enhance it by contributing capabilities that we lack. The real question is not whether humans are strange, but whether the galaxy is ready to benefit from their strangeness. When the council meeting results were announced, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would be granted full membership in galactic civilization, with priority integration status. Human exchange programs would be expanded to include cultural ambassadors at research stations, diplomatic facilities, and educational institutions throughout the galaxy. The announcement also included a new classification system for interspecies relationships. Instead of measuring integration success by how well newcomers ate,